Sherry put her daughter to bed and returned to the kitchen to make her some soup and finish preparing dinner for all of us. "I don't feel well either," I told her. "I think I'll sleep in the guest room tonight, in case I'm contagious." Sherry felt my forehead. "You do seem sweaty, dear, and you look pale." Yes, I thought, pale and sweaty. This is what happens when you catch your wife with another man in your bed. I didn't answer her. I just turned and walked up the stairs. I went to the master bedroom first. I really didn't want to go in there, but I needed my shaving supplies, toothbrush, and clothes for work the next day. So I forced myself into the room. The window was open, the smell of sex was gone, and the bed was made. She must have changed the sheets. It killed me to watch this. Anger rose up in me like a wave, but I suppressed it. I had to remain calm until I could bring down the fires of hell on their heads. And I will do it. Of course I will. I gathered my things and went into the guest bedroom, closing the door behind me. I stripped down to my underwear and climbed into bed. My body felt like wood. I wanted to cry, but I forced myself to hold back. I had a mission to accomplish, and I couldn't let my emotions get in the way. For several hours, I lay in the dark, sleep eluding me. My wife came into the room after feeding the children and putting them to bed. I pretended to be asleep. She touched my forehead with her palm and left the room, closing the door behind her. Sherry always took the kids to school, so I got up early, showered, and left the house before she got up. Honestly, I didn't care what she thought at that moment. I just wanted to leave. From what I considered, until yesterday, to be a wonderful marriage, built on lifelong fidelity, honesty, and commitment. How blind I was. How tragically wrong I was. I got to work before anyone in the office arrived, made coffee, and began organizing my plans. I knew I would have to cancel our joint credit cards, transfer half of our joint checking and savings accounts to another bank in my name only. The will, life insurance, and beneficiaries in the 401k need to be changed, removing Sherry and naming only Shelby and Ryan. It seemed like so little needed to be done to dissolve the last 13 years of my life. It had to be more difficult. And deep down, I believed that, at some point, it would be. I also knew that I needed to find a good divorce lawyer to try to stop Sherry from screwing me over. This was a no-fault state of divorce, so adultery would have played no role in the financial settlement. However, it could help me keep my children. Sherry proved how unimportant I was in her life, but she was a good mom, and I didn't want to keep her away from the kids. I just wanted joint custody so I could remain an important part of their lives too. I tried my best not to think about our love life and how humiliating it was to hear my wife tell her lover how superior he was to me in every way. I knew that if I let myself dwell on this right now, I would start to doubt myself, and I couldn't let that happen just yet. I knew it would come later, and when it finally caught up with me, it would most likely destroy me. Once I finished my list, I called Dan's office. He was there and said that by noon, he would have everything I needed. He'll even come with me to help me set it up and make sure I know how to use it all. I tried to concentrate on clearing some papers from my desk when my cell phone rang. I realized it was Sherry, and after 3 rings, I answered. Her voice never failed to warm me, but this time the warmth was simply a harbinger of burning anger. "Hi, baby. How do you feel?" she asked in the most gentle voice. "My stomach hurts a little." "I'm worried about you, dear. You left this morning before I had a chance to check on you." "Yes, I have a lot of things to take care of, and not much time, so I came early. Please, Jack, take care of yourself. I don't know what I would do if something happened to you. You know that you, Shelby, and Ryan are my whole life." "You have a very strange way of showing it," I thought to myself, but I told her, "Yes, I'll be fine. You just need to get it out of your head." "Well, if you're up for it tonight, I can think of a good way to make things happen for you. To think that I was so stupid and blind that I used to swallow her shit hook, line, and sinker, but not anymore. She will get everything that is due to her. You just have to wait. Of course, we'll see how I feel. Boy, you must be feeling really bad to be so uninterested in getting what you know is yours, kid." "Well, Sherry, I just have a lot of problems right now. See you tonight. I'll be home by 6, honey. If you need me for anything, just call me. I'm in the office all day today. This is what I needed to hear. I called Dan and he said he had everything ready. The two of us worked on the setup, got everything in place and tested by 3:30. Dan installed the software on my home computer and created a secure folder to collect and store everything the cameras and microphones captured. We auditioned the living room, kitchen, guest bedroom, and, of course, the master bedroom, paying particular attention to this room. There were 4 cameras installed there that filmed almost everything that happened there. We also installed a camera and microphone in the master bath in case the couple decided to shower together. All cameras were automatically motion activated. I was ready. That night was the hardest of my life. I couldn't convince myself to play the sick routine again, so after dinner, when the kids were asleep, I obediently followed my wife into our room. It wasn't lovemaking, it was just sex. I almost completely lost my composure when, in the middle of the process, my wife said, "God, Jack, you make me feel so good. No one will ever be able to love me the way you do, baby. Just keep doing this to me forever." Without cuddling after sex, I turned on my side and pretended to fall asleep. Sherry seemed excited as we always hugged after making love. She pressed herself against my back, hugged me, and said, "Jack, I'm sorry if I didn't satisfy you." "No, Sherry," I told her. "You always satisfied me. I just sometimes wonder if I'm man enough for you." "Jack, why do you say that? You know that you have always been my man. My life will end if anything happens to you. As long as I have you, I won't need anyone else. You are my ideal lover, always have been and always will be." "Yes, but I think sometimes it's just hard to believe." "Jack, what's wrong with you?" "Nothing, Sherry, I'm just tired." He closed his eyes and tried to sleep. Sometime later, I heard Sherry quietly crying. I didn't feel sorry for her, but I wondered if she was crying out of shame for what she had done, or because she felt that I had been rude to her. Once again, I got up before her and took the opportunity to install a voice recorder under the seat of her car. I also checked the video and audio from the installed equipment and made sure that everything we did at night was captured clearly, even in low-light conditions in our bedroom. When Sherry stood up, she was a little annoyed, telling me that I said something last night that hurt her feelings. Then she kissed me on the cheek, and her mood changed to one of joy. I think it was because of her plans that day with her boss. I poured her a cup of coffee and told her I would be locked in my office all day. She told me she would spend the day showing a few houses and was pretty sure she would have a big sale but would be able to pick up Shelby and Ryan after school. I kissed her on the cheek and headed for the garage door, but Sherry said, "Jack, you forgot to tell me that you love me, honey. You know how important it is for me to hear you tell me this every morning before we start our days." "Sorry, Sherry. I've already decided that you should know how I feel about you. I just have a lot on my mind." "Okay, I forgive you this time, but a girl needs to hear her man tell her he loves her. Do not forget about it." "I promise I won't." And I left. Yes, I will tell some girl how much I love her if and when I ever find another girl that I can trust enough to fall in love with. The information Sherry gave me about how busy she would be all day led me to believe that she would probably be spending some time with the true love of her life. I hoped that was the case. I was tired of playing games. I wanted this whole disaster to end. I spent the morning actually doing some work in my office, but keeping an eye on the clock. Finally, at noon, I told my secretary that I would be gone for a few hours and put my plan into motion. I checked out the company van and parked across the street from my house, where I waited to see what would happen. Around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I saw Sherry's car pull up to the house. She opened the garage door and parked in her usual spot. When she got out of the car and walked into the house without opening the garage door, I figured she was either going to drive away again or was waiting for someone. 10 minutes later, the same car. I had seen the day I found them together pull it up into our driveway and pull it into the garage, taking my place just as he had taken my place in my wife's bed. I saw him get out of the car and the garage door closed. I had to give them credit for having the courage to meet so openly in my home, in my bed. It just proved to me that they both believed they would never get caught. Either that, or they both came to the conclusion that they didn't care whether they got caught or not. Well, they will soon realize how wrong they were on both counts. They got caught, and I'll make sure they both care very much. Soon I'll have all the visual evidence I need of their dirty affair. For 13 years, I was convinced that my loving wife would never cheat on me, just as I would never cheat on her. And then, the first doubts came. Is he really that much better as a lover? Why would she voluntarily risk destroying our marriage, and his marriage too, if she should have understood that I would definitely tell his wife what exactly the two of them were doing? I so desperately wanted to go into the house and meet them face to face. But why? What would it do? I would have caught them in the act. But hell, I already did it once without them knowing it. Would I feel better beating the crap out of her lover and going to jail for it? Honestly, none of them were worth it. My only concern was how this horror would affect my children, and his children too, since I was ready to destroy him the same way he destroyed me. By 2:30 they must have finished because the garage door opened and her lover reversed his car and drove away. 15 minutes later, my wife did the same, closing the garage door behind her. I didn't want to waste time going through all the camera footage. I just wanted to make sure the evidence I needed was safely stored on my hard drive. After 10 minutes, I had seen enough. It wasn't a complete repeat of the last time they were together, but it was graphic as hell. They started on the kitchen table, at the place where I ate. They laughed at how many times they had already done this, wondering if I would ever realize that I was eating in the same place where he had slept with her so many times. After that, they moved into our bedroom, but not before her asshole lover suggested doing it in my daughter's room just for a change of scenery. My wife had a fit about this when she said to him, "In no case. It's bad enough that I let you rub it in my husband's face, but the kids' rooms will always be out of reach." At least she seemed to have a few restrictions, just not for me. In the bedroom, they took off their clothes and spent the next 40 minutes. I noticed that neither of them ever said they loved each other, but my wife kept telling her boss that he was the best lover she had ever had. As a final act, they moved to the fireplace rug in the living room. While he got dressed and left, she took a quick shower before leaving herself. I thought it was strange that she didn't take the time to change the sheets, but figured she'd do it when she got the kids home at 3:30. This left her enough time to clean and air the room, since I rarely returned home before 6. Knowing that the evidence I needed was safely hidden on my hard drive, I turned off the system and left the house, not even bothering to check the mess that was still present in my marriage bed. I had seen enough, and although my heart was hardened against my wife, I felt empty inside, pain, which soon gave way to burning anger and hatred. I think I actually smiled, knowing what the hell I was about to unleash on their lying heads. I went back to work and told Dan everything I had seen and heard. Like me, he couldn't understand how a supposedly loving wife like Sherry could do all this. Not only did she break our sacred vows to each other, but she went out of her way to heap as much humiliation on me as possible, all the while letting him know that he was a better lover, a bigger man, the only person who could complete her. Every time I mentioned it during our 13 years of marriage, she angrily told me it was too disgusting to even think about. All these thoughts plunged my soul into a deep abyss of pain and despair, from which I knew I had to climb out in order to complete my task of destroying them both. I needed to find a good divorce lawyer, and Dan suggested that I contact the law firm the company used to see if they could suggest anyone. I spoke with one of the corporate lawyers I knew at the firm, and he gave me 3 names of divorce attorneys who he knew had successfully defended a husband's rights. The first one I called was getting ready to retire and wasn't taking any new clients, but the second one said he would make time for me the next day at 3 p.m. After that, I decided to take care of canceling credit cards, changing beneficiaries, and moving money. When I got home that evening, Sherry was in the kitchen preparing dinner while the kids were doing homework in their rooms. She was wearing a yellow sundress and she looked very beautiful, and for a minute I thought my heart would break again. She smiled and seemed so happy. I assumed it was her usual afternoon good mood. "Hey baby, how's my man doing? I hope you had as good a day as I did." She told me this, causing my eyebrows to rise in surprise. My day was interesting. Not really that good, but I did discover some interesting things I didn't know about. What was so good about you? I knew perfectly well why she was in such a good mood. I'm sure spending time with the world's greatest lover makes your day. I made a sale, she said. The first one this week, but I think there may be another one on Thursday when I show a few more houses. It must have been your lucky day, I told her without much enthusiasm. Anything else special today? Meeting interesting or special people? She looked at me strangely. No, honey. Just a regular job to get through my day so I can go home and be with my family. You know where my heart is. While I was changing, I noticed that the sheets had been changed and the room had been aired. There was water on the shower floor, and I told her about it when I got back to the kitchen. Did you take a shower this afternoon? She literally jumped at my words and turned to me with a guilty expression on her face. No, of course it's stupid. Why would I do this? I don't know, but there is water on the shower floor and it never stays there for more than a few hours. Oh, the drain is probably clogged again. Yeah, maybe, but I cleaned it out a couple of weeks ago. Maybe someone is sneaking into our house to meet their lover, and they are taking a shower after sex, I said. This time she froze in place for a few seconds. She didn't turn to face me. She just continued to face the counter with her head down and then continued to part the lettuce leaves for the salad. My Jack, you definitely have a vivid imagination if you came up with something like that. Yes, is it so imagination, or is it extrasensory perception? Sometimes I feel like I can read people's minds. Well, if you could read my mind, you would see how much I love you. And she tried to laugh, but it sounded forced. I'll be in my office. Let me know when dinner is ready. She turned slightly and looked at me. She looked worried. Dinner was quiet. There was little conversation. Sherry seemed surprised when I took her usual place at the table and made her sit in my place. Jack, you always eat at this place at the table. Why change now? Oh, it's just nice to have a change of scenery for a change. Sherry looked at me strangely, and when she sat down, she didn't eat much, just more or less rearranged the food on her plate. During dinner, the kids talked about their day, but Sherry and I mostly just listened, making appropriate comments from time to time. After we all gathered to help wash the dishes, I went back to my office to work on my project. I went through the footage and selected suitable frames that I could turn into photographs, downloaded them so I could make large prints on my Epson T3000. I then carefully chose the wording to accompany the photographs. All I had to do was meet with my lawyer to begin the divorce, get my finances in order, and wait for the next visit of my wife and her lover to my home. When I finally went to bed, Sherry was already asleep, or at least pretending to be. I was pretty sure that my actions that evening had given her something to think about. Not that it mattered. There was nothing she could do or say that would make me change my mind about divorcing her cheating ass. And there was a small bonus in that. I think I made her at least a little nervous. Today was Tuesday, and she mentioned that she was going to make another sale on Thursday, so I took that as a signal that she and her lover would be getting together that day. I will destroy them that day.